Ada mic, boleh tolong Pak?
Assalamualaikum, Mufti. I have a question. Recently we know that our youth are very much engaged in marijuana. What is your opinion on consuming weed? Because when I ask those who consume weed, the answer is, it is not as intoxicating, it is not the same as alcohol, and it is permissible. So what is your opinion on this? Even KJ, you are in one of the groups, Targas. I mean, I don't understand, is it permissible or not? Because many youths are actually engaging in this consumption of weed. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I'd like to answer that question from two different angles. One is from a medical perspective. You all know that bad habits should be quit. Agreed? How many of you smoke? Okay, I don't want you to put up your hand because I don't need to know. Okay? But I'm sure those of you who do smoke, you acknowledge it's a bad habit, it's a waste of money. You know that it's wrong to sell cigarettes internationally, not from an Islamic perspective, but internationally it's wrong to sell cigarettes without having a disclaimer where it says cigarettes kill or smoking kills on the box itself. So it's a bad habit, we should eradicate bad habits. So if smoking is so bad, weed is worse. Like we always say, the only, subhanAllah, I'm sure you've heard us say this before, that the only weed that is permissible in Islam is tajweed. Okay, so actually that weed, now from a medical perspective it's bad. It's so bad, and even if people think, oh, it does good to me and so on, it's bad, it's wrong, and anything bad, we should not be doing it. From an Islamic perspective, the ruling is it's prohibited. So I hope you get it. From an Islamic perspective, it's prohibited without a doubt, and even from a medical perspective, it's so bad that if you were to travel across borders with that in your pocket, most countries in the world would jail you, and some of them might execute you. May Allah forgive us. So I hope you understand that.
Hi, good evening, Your Eminence. Firstly, let me express my gratitude. And I'm a non-Muslim, and I've been for countless sermons. I'm a Christian, and this is by far the most powerful one I've ever been to. And thank you so much for that. And my question to you is, as a non-Muslim who believes that every faith advocates peace, and I constantly face many questions from my Christian counterparts when it comes to defending Muslim or Buddhism, defending Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism. I sometimes have this question where you say that Islam does not promote terrorism, but all terrorists are Islam. So when it comes to that, I have to take a step back, and I find it a little bit difficult in defending that, because I say that there are Christians who are bigots, there are Christians who promote terrorism, there are all sorts of faiths who have bigots. And how can I give a better answer to this?
Jazakallah much. I think what's important for us is to learn and to read and to understand and to see. What has happened in the world is crime is perpetrated. If it is perpetrated by anyone who is not a Muslim, it's called a crime. And if it's perpetrated by a Muslim, it's called terrorism. So it's just the word that they've changed. So terrorism, the new definition of it, and I'm sure they might put it in the Oxford Dictionary if they were truthful, the new definition of terrorism is crime perpetrated by Muslims. You see, so that would exclude all non-Muslims. And I say this because we read the press. We know what's happening in the media. You know, I'm quite well versed with what's going on at the moment, and we feel so prejudiced against when it comes to matters of this nature. You know, you have McVeigh. He is not called a terrorist. You have anyone who's Christian. You know, the Sinn Féin, for example. You have the Lord's Resistance Army. You have the Christians, the Tutsis and the Hutus in Rwanda, for example. The ethnic cleansing that's happened in a lot of countries. These people have massacred millions of people, but they're not called terrorists. Why? Because there is some form of normally people say don't just feel pity on yourself by saying things, but there definitely is some form of an agreement to tarnish the image of Islam. And I never used to believe this. I used to think, you know what, these theories and all that, they're wrong. But one thing that is quite clear is Islam is still the fastest growing religion. You know that. I don't know if you're aware of it. And this people cannot understand. They asked me yesterday or the day before, why is Islam the fastest growing religion still? And I tell you the reason that I feel, having spoken to a lot of the women, because the bulk of those who are entering the fold of Islam are actually women. When they feel that we've now been enslaved in such a cunning way that we don't realize we're enslaved. They used to be naked a long time ago. You know, Robert Mugabe is the president of Zimbabwe. So he said, or, you know, we all know that he stands for morals and values, and he's very strict when it comes to certain things. And he doesn't want to budge when it comes to certain issues, right? Now, I'm saying this in a good way, that many, many years ago, the colonialists came to Africa. They found them dressed in feathers and leathers and skins, and they had spears and, you know, the traditional African dress. They told them, you are backward, you need to clothe, cover yourself. So they covered themselves. 200 years later, they told them, you are backward, remove the clothing once again. So now when they are going back to being dressed in less than what they used to be dressed a long time back, they are being told you are liberated. And yet in the middle, they were honestly saying dress, because when you dress, you are liberated. So what is it? So what's happening right now is the women who are becoming fed up of being enslaved by the makeup industry, for example, so enslaved that they cannot even walk out of the house without having spent 400 ringgits on the face. It's a reality. And they can't walk out. They can't without this and without that. They start thinking to themselves, hang on. How come we've gone back to the Stone Age where we've taken out all our clothing and we're dressing for a male-dominated environment to soothe the eyes of the males? There was a time when we wouldn't dare tell a woman, you're looking gorgeous. I'm talking of about 40, 50 years ago. No one would have come to my mother and say, oh, you're looking lovely. She would say, hey, shut up, you know. But today you say, you're looking lovely. Thank you, oh, thank you. Oh, wow, we'll actually put it up, we'll like it. Oh, someone acknowledged me, you know. Because it's all become this issue. So people start feeling this. And what happens is they realize, let me cover up. Let me become truly liberated. People must know me for my contribution to the nation. People must know me for my service to the rest of humanity. People must know me for my character and conduct, not just what I look like. So what happens is, when the people who studied what's going on the globe saw that as much as Islam is being portrayed in a negative way, it's still growing so fast. To be honest, words started coming out that would only depict Muslims. So terrorism is an act done by Muslims. Like they say, there was a man, you know, for example, it's just an example that's given online, and I've read it, where a man saved a dog, right? So people said, oh, this man saved the dog. What did he do? The dog was on the highway, and he ran after the dog, and he saved the dog, and he actually brought it to safety. So there was an article saying, wow, man saves dog, and so on and so forth. And then they found out he was a Muslim. And what did they say? They then put a headline to say, a terrorist Muslim disturbs the peace of a dog trying to cross the road. Come on, come on, come on. Now this is just an example, obviously. It may also be hypothetical, but at the same time, it goes to show that even the Muslims understand that that word terrorism is abused. Look, we are approximately 1.5 to 2 billion Muslims on the globe. If Islam was actually a terroristic religion, nobody would exist. They wouldn't exist because, can I stand up? You are a non-Muslim, agreed, my brother? Do you feel safe in this room? MashaAllah. You feel secure, don't you? We're all Muslims around you. Remember that? MashaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. I think I've just made my point. Shukran, shukran. Thank you so much.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. I'm just curious about democracy. Is democracy is a way of Islam? And how about Shura? Can you explain, because I'm not sure about the concepts.
Jazakallah.
Democracy is a term that is used. We need to understand what is meant by it. And what I've noticed is over time it's also being modified. It's being modified. So Islam has a system that's not modified. It's there. Shura is something that is quite close, whereby you seek the opinion of the majority of people. But in Islam, the difference is there needs to be qualified people to be able to seek guidance from. So if I would like to participate in a shura, the people that I seek guidance from must be qualified in what I want to ask them about. You know, I cannot ask a person who's a plumber about someone else's heart disease. I need to get a doctor. And on top of that, I need to have a doctor who is genuinely concerned about the cause. Let me give you an example about shura. If I were to get married, and I wanted an opinion about a certain girl, and I want to ask someone, you know, is it worth it or not? I need to ask someone who knows me, perhaps who may know her, but who has a genuine feeling for me. Because if that person doesn't have a genuine feeling for me, they will intentionally give me the wrong opinion. You know, if there is a guy who's eyeing out the same girl, he will tell me, very bad idea. Don't, she's a bad woman. And 2 months later, the two are getting married. And what did I do? I asked opinion. So the shura also has a lot of, restrictions or rules and regulations. It's not just I sought opinion, but it goes to show that the opinion of others counts even in Islam. That's what it goes to show. So, you know, if you were to say Islam and democracy, yes, the two may not be of the same understanding, the way it stands today, but I want to inform you of something interesting. Many years ago, in one of the countries, there were 10 political parties, and there was the election happening, and the party that came into power had 30% of the vote, and the other 70% was scattered through the other 9 parties. One had 5%, one had 11%, one had 12%, one had 8%, whatever else it was. So we were looking at it and studying it, and we were saying that, look at this democracy, it's brought into power someone who only has the support of 30% of the masses. 70% of the masses don't want them there, but they are sitting there. Later on we got to hear that no, you have the runoff and you have various other ways of ensuring that the majority wants this person. But then what you're doing is you're minimizing the number of candidates. So I'm voting just because, yes, it's a runoff. I only have 2 choices, for example. I have to make one of the 2. But in essence, I wanted a third person. So there are a few things that could be there that still will be modified as time passes with the democracy that we know. Similarly, in different countries, it's practiced differently. And what I've learned is in some nations, it simply doesn't work. You know, some nations where we have a culture of a different nature, and in particular I'm referring to some of the Arab nations where you've had, you know, chiefs and kings and so on. If you were today to replace that with the Western style democracy, you would have what's happened in Iraq, what's happened in other places. That's what you would have. Because what happened, people said Saddam was a dictator. Look, I was quite younger at the time, but later on, what happened today, there are so many people who fought for the removal of Saddam Hussein, who will confirm and tell you we would rather have been under his rule than what's happened today. I'm just saying this. I'm not saying I said it. I'm saying there are so many people who fought for the removal of Saddam Hussein, who say that, you know, what we are witnessing today, we had a better life under Saddam. So a guy like me would sit and look at that statement and think to myself, well, what is it? Maybe they were not educated, maybe there was something else, or like I said in my talk, we went to solve a problem in a way that created another 10 problems. So yes, we do have a connection, we do have an overlapping, and we do have areas where the religion and that do not see eye to eye, but one cannot condemn the other completely. We take a little bit from here that fits there and a little bit from here that fits there, and subhanallah, like I say, I wouldn't like to interfere in the internal affairs of your nation, and that's the reason why I don't want to tell you don't do this and do that when it comes to matters of this nature.
I would like to ask, in Malaysia we live in a multicultural society, right? So sometimes even Muslims, they also do prohibited things, like not wearing hijab or drinking alcohol or going to clubs or concert even so. So how do we convey to the non-Muslims if they ask, why do Muslims do that? Do all prohibited things? Yeah, what's the best answer to
so much, my sister. It's the same thing that I said about the Hindu that was having the hamburgers, okay? Which means it is common knowledge that some people take their religion a little bit seriously, some people don't. It doesn't mean that those who take their religion seriously are bad people. It doesn't make them bigoted. I know of really good Muslims who are lovely people. And I know of people who read Salat 5 times a day, but they're so horrible, I wouldn't like to mix with them. I promise you, I'm sure you know some people who dress appropriately, they read 5 times Salah, they'll even make tahajjud, but they have no way of character and conduct with the people. They cheat and deceive and steal, and they harm others. And yet you have some who might not be so externally religious, but they are so beautiful in their ways and habits and so on. That is all part of the test. You must keep on calling towards goodness without losing hope. If you believe you're a Muslim, you've seen your sister or brother who's a Muslim participating in something wrong or consuming alcohol, it's your duty to beautifully convey the message. That's what I do all the time. We talk about goodness and we do not lose hope. If you see carefully, if you try and look carefully at my social media presence, Twitter for example, maybe Instagram for example, Facebook for example, there is a consistency in positive messages throughout. I try my best not to let negativity be shown, because everyone needs hope today. We're living in a hopeless world. I'm so sorry to say that. Everything you look at is trying to snatch your hope away. Everything you look at is making you despondent. At least you keep on smiling, keep on having a good message, keep on trying, you know, and keep on reaching out to people. It will make you feel good and it will help others. Trust me, I am so moved by the fact that Honorable Minister here has actually said that he follows quite closely on a daily basis and he receives a bit of that motivation. Subhanallah, I'm sure it may be the same with all of you. Well, if that's the case, this is what makes us brothers and sisters in faith. And this is why, please, don't be judgmental. Everyone who is sinful is potentially a really lovely person. They would come across, if only you made the right effort. Keep on doing your da'wah in a positive way. Please don't go around and say, you know what, you're going to hell. I remember the young people, there was a time when no one used to want to listen to religious scholars. You have a religious scholar coming in, no, the attendance is poor. Or it's all old people ready to go into their graves who are there wanting to know, how do I go into my grave? Why? Because there was a gap. They used to come to the masjid and say, right, the punishment of Allah is severe. You are going to the fire if your hair shows. You are going to the fire if you are going to do this. If you go to the nightclub, that's it, you're doomed. No hope. So the man thinks, you know what, I'm doomed, I'm going to the fire. I've got a place in the fire. Let me just make that place a little bit bigger so at least I have some space to move, you know. So at least I have some space to move. So what happens is, they are doomed, they feel bad, they feel evil, they feel negative, they don't want to listen to the message ever again. And they already feel religion and me, we are two different things, I'm sorry, you know, let's see what happens when I die. But now we are trying to change that. By giving messages of hope. Allah is forgiving, Allah is merciful. You know, no matter what you've done, come back to the path. It's a beautiful path. Try and do your most. In the Straight Path Convention that we just concluded, I said in the concluding remarks, if you have moved 1 millimeter, we have achieved. 1 millimeter. Why? So long as you are heading in the right direction. Today you will have a leader who's right at the top of his, you know, maybe ministry, like we have the Honorable Minister, or even a nation. He was also born one day, and you know what, he also learned language. He also didn't know how to speak, and then he spoke. People were patient with him. He grew up in an environment. It might not have been absolutely ideal, but he made the most of whatever was there, and continued until a day came when worldly success was achieved. And now inshallah we will look at the success even of the hereafter. And this is why I'm convinced, when I sat and I heard the Honorable Minister quoting verses of the Quran, I was touched. May Allah bless you. May Allah bless everyone. It's not easy, because a lot of the times you see a minister, you see people, you think, okay, these people have succeeded in terms of the world. But perhaps they may not really be bothered sometimes about the hereafter. That is changing. They are bothered about the hereafter. They want to reach out to people, to be able to quote accurately. It wasn't just inaccurately, accurately. Verses of the Quran is something that motivates a person like me. The only thing is, I will coach him about how to intonate the verse, inshallah. So the next time you hear him, he will recite that verse in a melodious way, and then you can nod your head and say, Mufti Menk, mashallah. May Allah bless you guys. May Allah bless you. Let's have patience with one another. Barakallah fiqh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How to reach out to people who think, some of them think that Islam are only for Malays, and some of them even use that to save Islam as a reason for them to be racist.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Once again, my sister, this is the problem that we face even from a cultural perspective, where many people don't embrace those who have reverted to Islam from other races. And it's a weakness we have. We will have to work on it. I think the new generation, our generation, those who are seated here, we are more open-minded in this regard. Even when it comes to marriage. You know, my generation and a little bit older than me, if you wanted to marry someone who's not exactly from your type, your race, your system, your clan, your part of the country, and so on, our forefathers or our fathers would have had a big problem in that regard. They would say, no ways. I don't mind, you can marry a person from the street, for as long as he's Malay, it's okay. You know what? Whether they are Chinese background, Malay background, whether they are African background, Middle Eastern background, trust me, true Islam is that also should be okay. That's what the Prophet ﷺ came to teach. So this is where we say we have to quit that culture. Didn't I say that? You know, we were talking about what comes first, culture or religion. In this particular case, it's a cultural superiority complex that makes us feel that it's just us. We are the only ones. No. In this case, I'm sorry, but my religion will have to take over. I'm going to have to delete what might be prevalent in my culture, thinking that we are the best. And I'm going to have to allow this to happen. If my child comes and tells me, I would like to marry a Caucasian or a Chinese or someone from the Philippines, I'm going to say, no problem, I'm the first person to support you. So it's us who will have to make the change. We will have to make the change. And this is why when I see people of other cultures and other races, normally I go out of my way to give them importance. Give them importance. And I ask you to do the same. Give them importance. This smile breaks barriers. People accuse us of being very cold people. When I sit in an aircraft, and I told you earlier that I do that a lot, I make it a habit to greet, to smile, to share, to say things, no matter. The person can actually think you're a bad person. Initially, that's the way. You know, a guy walking into an aircraft with a big beard, dressed in an Islamic way, you know, that's the last thing you want to see on a plane. Do you agree? But as you walk in, you smile, hi, how are you doing? And I'm fortunate because, you know, I fly so much that now when I enter the aircraft, a lot of the times you get the crew coming to greet you because your name is on a list of people who travel a lot, right? So they come to greet you, and then the people are wondering, why are they greeting him, you know? And I have another one where a lot of the stewards and hostesses would know me personally, and they would come and greet me by name and say, it's an honor to be flying. I actually had one of the flights where the captain announced, he says, Mufti Menk, ladies and gentlemen. And I was like, wallahi, wallahi, recently. And he says, it is an honor to be flying my mentor. That's what he said. The captain was talking on and I'm like sitting like, and I started sweating because, you know, I was like a little girl blushing. May Allah forgive us. I'm thinking, I wasn't expecting that. But what happens as a result is people realize that, you know what, you can be a good Muslim with a beard and you're such a friendly person. You reach out to us. I promise you, if there was a gay who was drowning, I would be the first one to dive in and save him. I'm just letting you. Why? Because he is a human being. That's what it is. Did you hear? What I said, people might not agree with. I will have scholars who might even fight me to say, how could you say that? I disagree. He's a human being. I may not see eye to eye with you on certain matters. It doesn't mean that when you are drowning, I might just say, by the way, go, pour more water, let him drown. No. No matter who it is. You know, there was a man who was asking me a question. He was asking me about something, and I gave him an example. I said, if your wife was drowning and I was standing next to you and I was the swimmer and you couldn't swim, what would you say? You would say, please go and save her, wouldn't you? Why? Because you are the swimmer. And you would pray for me while I go there. You would pray for me that I brought her back safely. And you wouldn't mind what I look like. You really wouldn't mind. I could have a longer beard than this. And when I came back, there are so many Muslims who have done this. So many Muslims who have reached out to non-Muslims. No one talks about it because, you know, sadly media sells. The news sells when it's negative. When it's positive, it doesn't sell. So when you have a beautiful session with an honorable minister and we've spoken so many, they will pick on one negative thing and they will talk about it. That's called media. And that's why we have journalists whom we believe will make a difference, inshallah. They will not do, they will talk about good things. Let's start talking about how many nice things are happening on the globe. If for every one act of terrorism that's going on the globe, there are hundreds of thousands of acts that go unmentioned of people. You know, I was watching the news about Singapore. There was an award they gave of the Singaporean of the year, something of that nature. There was a lady who helped a non-Muslim in a supermarket. Did anyone read that story? Yes. What did she do? This man, he actually sadly missed himself, old man on a wheelchair, and the couple, elderly couple. And people were walking, Muslims, non-Muslims were walking past. One lady who's a Muslim decided, let me help them, man. She actually took that old man who was not related. Now we will sit and say, not mahram, not this, not that. All that, put it on one side. She was the only person who reached out to this non-Muslim guy in Singapore, and she assisted, cleaned him, bought, she purchased for him clothing to wear another, you know, set of longs. And she then took him home, and there was a relationship that developed to this elderly couple where she would visit them now and again, and their lives changed as a result. She had an award of so many thousands of dollars, and she was acknowledged by Singapore at large. She's a Muslim. But that was a news piece of article only in Singapore. I read it because I followed the news. The bulk of the people may not have read it. I thought it was a big deal. If I knew this woman, I would have actually gone to congratulate her. So there are hundreds of thousands of those type of deeds that happen on a daily basis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. The problem is with us, sometimes we do stick rigidly to some factors that are not really supposed to be. Like this issue you're raising of Islam being only for the Malay and so on. No. Back at home they say Islam is only for the Malawian, you know, because it was there in Malawi for a long time. No, it's for everyone. Learn to embrace people. It's up to us to let our children even marry into people of other races, because we will then be able to make the difference. No point in talking about it, and then when it comes to your chance, you say, no, 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 it's still not going to happen. Why? Make the change. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us.
Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. One of the major problems happening especially in this country is the act of labeling someone as Wahhabi and the other parties proclaiming themselves as Ahli Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So the situation is, I used to follow one of the well-known ustads in this country and always quoted his words. But I encountered some Facebook pages attacking him being one of the Wahhabi and proof with some screenshots of his wordings. But both parties are holding Islam as their religion. So what happened is, it creates doubt in my mind towards the ustads. So can I seek explanation for this issue? Thank you.
I didn't want this catch question, but anyway, it's the last one, so let's go for it. As much as I wouldn't like to address the matter, I have to. Okay? Let me explain something. It's not an issue of Wahhabi, non-Wahhabi, what. People have been here for years on end. It's an issue of intolerance. It's an issue of extremism on all parties. I believe every ustaz makes mistakes, without exception. Take the good from all of them and leave the bad. When someone preaches hatred against another, discount it, and if you have the opportunity, go to them and tell them, please, don't talk about other people. I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to stand for this. You know who I am, right? I'm a brother of yours in faith. Have you ever heard me talk bad about another person? MashaAllah. MashaAllah, the innocent have borne witness. Do you agree? Why? I have so much of goodness to share with the world that I don't have time to worry about others. Come on, come on. Those who talk about others don't have something to present themselves. I am busy doing my work. So many people send me messages, oh, someone called you a Wahhabi, someone called you a Sufi, someone said you're a Salafi, someone said you're a Deobandi, someone said you're a Barelvi. Some of these names I don't even know what they mean, to be honest with you. I was waiting for the day they said someone call you a chocolate man, because that's true, you know. But all these names, for me, I say, hey, look, I know what I am. I'm a Muslim, and I'm trying to spread a good message amongst all groups. Let me carry on doing my work. The minute I turn to fight them, I become a fighter. I cause a bigger problem. And now who's going to do this good work? Because my energy, like I said earlier, all the energies are now being utilized, waste of resources, to do something where it's going to be less beneficial, in fact destructive. So please do yourself a favor. When you hear labeling, you need to be more intelligent than the label. You need to rise above it and tell yourself, whatever good is coming from this person, I will take it. Whatever bad is coming, I will discount it. The reason is, even if you belong to one group, it does not mean the ustazas of your group, everything they say is right. They will also say wrong things. You will have to pick it up. And it doesn't mean that there is a Christian across the road so they cannot teach you something good. I have had people who taught me mathematics and geography and biology and sociology and English language who were Jews and Christians and Hindus and people who belong to other faiths. I took from them whatever I had to, and I left whatever I didn't. You follow what I'm saying? So when you go to the university, you will have a lecturer who might be gay, for example. You know, I'm not talking about this nation in particular, but maybe in Europe, okay? You take from them whatever you feel you need to take from them and leave the rest. I'm there to study petroleum engineering, for example, or whatever else. I took whatever I had to, and that's it. And I respect them for having given me what they did. That's humanity. The problem with us is, the problem is all over. We all are guilty of labeling others. This one is this. Let's understand. It's qualities that make us or break us. You have a bad quality. Look, I'm sitting with people. I don't need to know what inclination he is or I am. I know I get along on common factors that are 9,999 compared to the one item that I might find that I'm different with him in. Do you know? So this is why I say, let's not allow our nation to crumble based on this labeling that's going on. Take the good from everyone and leave that which is not good, no matter where it's from. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ease and goodness. May Allah bless your nation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you strength and growth. And may whatever issues you may be having be resolved in the best possible way that results in the true growth of your beautiful nation. Jazakumullah khair.